Technical difficulties. I usually don't have those. All right. Maybe that's better. Okay. So let's see what we got. Your 3D work, reference, sketch, final render. Remember, this all has to be inside of a Google Drive folder. So those folders are what you're going to be putting into your submissions for next week for me. I want all of that. So the 3D that you were doing, your pictures that you're using as reference, your sketch, and your final render, all that needs to be in there. And yes, before the last class at 8 a.m. so we could get those and look at them and then get out of here. That's the whole hope on that. So let's look at what we got. And remember, this should be about 10 seconds long. So if you're putting this together and it's a 1 second animation, you should question what you did for 7 weeks. There's that video. And then, okay, let's get into 3D. So with our Rube Goldberg machines, I just made this weird little spot back here. It's a window, and I'll show you guys how to make another one of these. I'm putting together a room that I can use for my Rube Goldberg machine, and as you can see, I played video games all semester long, and I have dominoes that are just some gray cubes and a teeter-totter. Oh boy, is my instructor going to be impressed. So yeah, I got some work to do, but if I want to have this look like it's inside of a house, let's see how we could do that. This window, it is very, very simple. And in case if you're trying to do something like that, it's just going to be using a cube that I stretched out. And I use multi-cut, and I cut down the middle and here. So I made a plus. I am selecting the edges of that by holding down the shift, so I have those edge loops, and then I'll hit bevel. And that's a lot, so we'll just reduce that down. And so I'm just going to shrink this thing down, and now I have sort of something like that. Cool. And then I can just go around the edge of this. So if I click here, hold down shift, click, and then double click, I'll get all of those edges around. I'll just hit extrude. I'm going to pull that out. I know it's getting a little bit wonky right there, but that's okay. Because what I could do is just either grab all these vertices on the top and then scale that. Scale those. Scale those, and then scale those. So now I have a little window, and to make this feel like it's 3D, hold down shift and pull that back. So now there's a hole there. Now there's not really a hole. I have to do some more work on this, because if we look at this one, actually got a hole there. So get this extra piece in, I'm just going to go ahead and grab those vertices that I just, or those faces that I was just working on. I'm going to delete those out. And as a matter of fact, I don't even really need this back part, so I can delete these out as well. So if I get these out of here, now I have kind of the shell, which I can grab all these edges and then just press bevel on. And depending on how you want that to look, we can make that a really nice bevel around these pieces, just to give a little bit of a lip around the surface here. So I'm sure you can hear my kids screaming, because I could definitely hear it in my dreams. Okay, so if I press this bevel button, okay, if I did that a little bit all the way around, you can see I don't want to waste too much time, but this one had the bevel on the inside. That looks pretty nice. So we're going to go to the one that was already in the oven, this one, and we're going to duplicate it and bring this over here. I want to put another light, or another window over here. So how do I get a hole in here without spending too much time on that? That's just going to be using your multi-cut, and I'm going to hold down the control key, click, and click. And I already did that around the vertical, and then I could just select that face and hit delete, and now I got a hole in the wall. Now this is a cool thing I can do, because I can fake an outside, and all this is a cube. And the reason why it doesn't look like a cube on the inside is because I soften the edges. So if I were to do a mesh display harden edge, that looks like outside, or that looks like a box. So if I do mesh display soften edge. Kind of just makes it so you can't see those edges there. Now, why would I do something like that? It's just to give some depth to my scene if for whatever reason you want to go that far. And what I can do is I'm going to go to my hypershade and I'm going to start working on some materials here. So, like I had stated, you do not need to create, what do you call that? Arnold render. And if you're not going to do an Arnold render, don't use Arnold materials. Use create material blend. And the reason why I want you to do this is because it's less system intensive and it's going to look good in your viewport. So that's what your PlayBlast uses. If I have blend right here, I'm going to call this just outside and MAT. So if I have this material, the big thing I want you to be aware of, and for your pendulum, the reason why those pendulums look really weird, that was actually on me, and I gave everyone credit for the lighting. The reason why it was because of this part right here. Reflectivity on that pendulum was all the way up to a 1, which means that it was a mirror, and that's why it looked so weird. So I gave everyone full credit on the lighting because I knew that was kind of glitched out. That was because it was from 3D Studio Max, and I brought it in, and I forgot to fix this one little glitch. Right here under reflectivity, we want to kill that. Don't put reflectivity on things that aren't reflective. As a matter of fact, don't use reflectivity for a PlayBlast anyways because it's going to take way too much time. Unless if you really, really need something like a mirror, then don't do reflectivity. It adds way too much time for your rendering. And if you have things like buttons or little tiny objects with this material on it with reflectivity, it has to calculate those raycasts. And that means it takes a long time. So the reason why I'm using this material for blend is because I like that I have specular control. Lambert doesn't have that, but this does, and it allows for me to start to play around with the eccentricity and all sorts of fun things like that. You'll notice I can have like this really high sheen like a brand new car, or dull that out by increasing my eccentricity on that. And then my specular color is basically how much that sheen is. You can kind of get an idea of how that would work for like Mario Galaxy with those like candy coating worlds and stuff like that. It kind of felt like that. That's kind of what we're looking at here. I'm going to go into my color and then just change that to maybe an outdoor bluish white. So I'm going to go something like this. I'm also going to go for my back window. I'm going to go into my ambient color, and I'm also going to give that a nice kind of bluish white. Okay. So if this is an outdoor scene, select both of these objects, and I'm just going to right click and assign materials to selection, and now I have kind of this bluish white outside, and that's going to kind of just simulate outdoors. So I just faked sort of a shadow box type look. Now you could always add more stuff back there too, you know, maybe there's like a picket fence or something, but this is the you know, if you're doing the candy coated everything right now and your cake isn't cooked yet, which is the Rube Goldberg animation, it's not gonna do so well. So this is all extra stuff, but it looks really nice when we animate a camera. We move by and we just see a little bit of something in the background. So this is what I kind of wanted to show you for how to make something that kind of has an appearance of a glow, and it's using just a blend. Now I have other stuff that I could do. So maybe I have this ground and I don't really like this brown whatever this is. I want to change that. So I'm going to go inside of my hypershade. There it is. I have it called ground, and it is a blend. I want to change this. So I'm going to go into my color, and I'm going to click on this little checker box. So this checker box has allowed me to put a render node in here. And you'll notice right here, I could put checker in here. Now that's kind of a coincidence just because you have checkers right there for this little icon that they chose, and there's checkers here. There's a lot of different stuff we can change on here. I'm going to use checker for my color, and then I'm going to look at what this did. Oh, doesn't look like it did anything. Well, the reason why is you have solid colors going on right now. You don't have anything with an input on any nodes except for now with this ground. This ground now has checkers going into the color, meaning that our shading network has to have hardware texturing turned on. And now we have our very much 1980s 3D, hey, you put a checker pattern on something. But this can be something cool that we could work with. I want to touch this for very quick, a little bit amount of time. I don't want you to have to worry too much about this. However, if you do go in this route, I want to show you what we'll be dealing with next semester. It's called UVs. And this is in our texturing class, which is digital applications for the animator. It's the nerdiest name for texturing, which is how we add color and paint objects. We do hand painted characters. We do creating transparency maps for plants and repeating textures and all sorts of stuff like that. I'm going to select all of these faces down here. I'm going to press UV editor. And there it is. And right now it's in this box. It's kind of hard to see right now. There we go. So you can kind of see right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is this thing. But this is a rectangle and this is a square, meaning that those checkers are actually stretching out. They're not actually even. So what we need to do is kind of make this look like those checkers. So to do that, all I'm going to do is take this and stretch it outwards to make it more of a rectangle. And you'll notice that's immediately getting that to look a little bit better. Again, this is just extra stuff, but this is maybe something that those who want to adventure into that can definitely add more magic to your set. And that looks definitely a little bit more like there's some stuff going on there. Cool. How could we make curtains? Because this is bothering me for whatever reason. I just got to have some curtains. I'm going to create. I'm going to go to my CV curve tool. And I want to do that one. No, we're going to do it a different way. We're going to do, I'm going to use a plane. Okay, I have a plane, and I'm going to rotate it so it's up and down. Go over here. And I'm sure you guys have already noticed there's like a million ways to do things. So I was going to show you a different thing, but I knew it was going to open up a Pandora's box full of, but wait, how can I do this now? And I don't want you guys to worry about that. I just want to show some very quick things to put some polish on this. I'm going to use my multi-cut, and I'm just going to go full-blown Edward Scissorhands on this and cut this up. All right, I've got that, and I'm going to go and grab these things and there, and all right, it's getting there. I'm going to grab all of these edges now, hit bevel, and now I've got twice the amount. And now I can grab some faces, pull some forward, pull some back, and now it kind of has a little bit more of a realistic look to it. Not yet, but it will. So there's something. And so now that I have this, I can just take this whole thing, bring it straight down to here, and I can mess this up a little bit more. So I can go into my multi-cut, and I'm going to cut across. So I'm going to hold down Control, cut, 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 and then I'm going to just double click, move this over maybe, and mess that up a little bit. And this would be the tightest area for control because there would be a rod jam through it. Down here, it would be expanded more. So if I actually just grab the edge loop that's down here, or the bottom edge, and expand that out, easy cheesy. Is it great? No, but it gives me a little bit of extra finesse, and I can expand it out this way too. So you'll notice that now these crevasses, fancy word to say crevice, is a little bit better. So there's a drape, and hey, look, you got two drapes now, and man, that house it's gonna sell for tons of money now. So that's just an easy way to put something like that in there. How do we put some lighting in our scene so we actually make this look like it's worth watching? Well, I want you to always think about your camera. Your camera is going to determine where your lights need to go and where the ceiling needs to be. So if you need a ceiling or not, we have it sort of set up sitcom style, so we have no back wall here. Steve Urkel could blast through a door at any moment over there, or Stephanie could drive a car into the kitchen at any moment. If anyone knows good TV back in the day. So we got ourselves some, there we go. I increased the height of that only because I don't have to worry about where this camera is going, and I can kind of move around a lot. What I want to be able to do now, I want to be able to take some lighting, and your lighting is not going to be now under Arnold lights. Don't touch that if you're going to do a play blast. What we need to do is go to our modeling ribbon, and we're going to change this. For whatever reason, the menu's over on another screen. Let me see if I can. Oh, it's over. So I'm going to go to rendering. You'll just believe me because it changed to there. And we have lighting and shading. We have render. We have all sorts of fun stuff. I'm going to go back to modeling, actually. Check out right here under our ribbon. Right now we are under poly modeling. Let's go to rendering here. So if we press rendering, you have all these things. Now this is a little bit outdated in the sense that Arnold is taking over. As a matter of fact, Arnold is now over in our ribbon, and it does have its own set of lights that we usually use. However, our default rendering that used to be the bread and butter for Maya for many years are still in here. As a matter of fact, I was just watching on Corridor Crew. I didn't realize it, but Corridor Crew had an animator from Disney on, and they use Maya for Disney. So if you're wondering what the hell do they use, what proprietary software do they animate in, it is Maya with a lot of extra features added to it. So that was just an interesting thing to hear from the person that was talking, who was animator. So I'm going to press a button here. I'm going to press this one that looks like a flashlight and watch what happens. Oh, you made a light. Cool. Now, this light isn't going to give you the anxiety that that light does. This one always stresses me out because I have to press that, and then I have to turn on the Arnold renderer, and then I have to wait for 5 minutes to see what lighting looks like. Instead, we're going to have this light, and I'm going to go to lighting, use all lights. So watch this. Oh, there's a light. And oh man, let me show my professor the 4 minutes of modeling work I did on those dominoes. There we go. Let me spotlight that up for him. So there is also, I'm not a professor. I'm an instructor. I didn't get my doctorates because getting a doctorate in animation, you guys would not be learning anything. So I've got a light here. That's cool. I'm going to change my lighting, and I'm going to put that onto shadows. So now I've got a light on, and under lighting, I've got shadows. And I've got shadows that are, you know, making this look like a polished turd, because these are really bad looking dominoes that don't do anything yet. But man, I've really got a spotlight on that. And because my lighting is on, look at the back. I've got that material that has the ambient on, so it's still going to give out its own natural glow, and it's kind of going to give me just that idea that there is an outdoors there with that lighting there. So it's not actually influencing anything in my scene, it's just got that illumination on that. So that's kind of a nice thing to see. How do we control this light? This is actually pretty easy. Go to your attribute editor, and we have our color. So hey, things aren't really ever 100% white or 100% black. There's always a bit of color mixed into it. So with our lighting, usually in indoors, it's going to either be like this kind of pukey off-white, or it's going to be a little bit of an yellow. The yellow one is a little bit more easier on the eyes, so I like to go with that. So I'm going to go with just a little bit of color to that. I don't need a lot. If you're into this realm, you're making like a 1993 Quake mod or something. It just doesn't really I don't think Quake came out yet, but I think that was 96. But anyways, it just doesn't look right. So go a little bit of color. A little bit is more. Now, obviously, if we look at what the Jedi Master Scott Connor has right here for his tutorial for lighting, he's got it so it's set up like a I don't know, like a TikTok video. Where it's like just super nice. Like I expect to hear some like Twitch type music going on right here, but the lighting is definitely unnatural. We have some greens and some reds and blues that are hitting in ways that we generally don't see in the real world. However, it looks nice. It looks candy coated, and that you can see in his setup here in this video again. Let's see how we can add at least just one light, and then we'll get into some more candy coated stuff here. So if I go into my intensity, you guessed it, it's how bright that is. That's all we have to deal with this type of a light. And I have things like my cone angle. The larger the cone angle, the further, or the bigger that gets. I have things like penumbra angle, and that's going to allow for me to control kind of that edge. I'm blurring that out. And then same thing with my drop off. I can control it. If I move this close to my subject, it's going to be bright, but things drop off in the sense that that brightness goes away rather quickly. So we have a lot that we can control on this as well. So the psychology of lighting, we generally don't want that hard edge unless if we're trying to draw attention to something. So usually we don't do that. We also usually don't use spotlights if we're trying to illuminate an entire room like a house. So here's another thing to think about. If you're trying to make this look like a house, then your lighting wouldn't be like a spotlight on one object. If you think about your house, I have lighting, recessed lighting in my room. And so I know I'm fancy, right, with them LED recessed lightings. I'm going to just take my light and then put it here, duplicate it maybe, and then there, and something like that. And I can arrange these a little bit better, so it's illuminating the whole room. But if you light this realistically, it's gonna look a hell of a lot better than trying to just fake your lighting. And you'll notice now I'm pulling that up so it kind of allows for this to look a little bit better there. And this is starting to get a little bit more realistic looking. Notice right now the shadows that are already happening on this. This is starting to look pretty cool. Fun little fact too, in case if you want to apply for being the host of Jeopardy. Not that this is a really smart thing, but you should know if you're standing in the middle of a street and it's noon and you see multiple shadows and there's nothing else around, you're in a simulation or something weird is happening, because the amount of shadows that you have should be based off of the amount of light sources that are hitting you. If you're getting hit by a giant spotlight or something, maybe you're getting abducted by aliens, but your lights are going to have the amount of shadows that are being produced. Right now we have a number of shadows on these objects because we have a lot of lights. Now I tried to do this yesterday and for whatever reason it didn't work. Let's see if Maya finally started working or if it's just not something we're going to be able to do. We can control lighting when we render by going into our lighting and shading, and there's something called a light link editor, and there is also make light links and break light links. What this basically does is it controls objects. So let's say I don't want any of these lights to be illuminating this object. So if I have these three lights in this object selected and I go to lighting and shading, break light links, it should break the lights. Now that's if I am rendering this out. You'll notice it's not really doing anything right now. That's because it's under the play blast. So just something to know. You could technically render this whole thing out if I press the render button and then escape because I don't want Arnold, but I go to software and hit render. You'll notice I can render this scene and have a really nice look to it using Maya software instead of Arnold. The setup for rendering is the same for being able to have the number of frames and all that setup. However, it's an area that we haven't really touched, and I think that we can actually get something better right now by just messing around with our viewport render. So that's why I'm not even showing software render. Software render used to be something that we used. So if I'm looking at this, it's got a pretty nice look to it, but again, we're in the real world. Well, we're not. We're in a virtual world right now in Maya. But in the virtual world, we should make it look as much as we can as a real world effect. And this is black shadows. And again, things in the real world, bright, solid white, and black shadows. Those don't exist. So it always is a major tell for our 3D when we have things like that. So we need to change that. I'm going to select my light and I'm going to go to my attribute editor. And if I go to my shadows here, my shadow color is set to this black. And so I'm going to do maybe a blue and a dark blue. And I'm also going to do that with all of these as well. I'm just going to change these out. It's not going to be overly obvious that I did this, but it will at least give a little bit of a subtle look to it. Also, if I zoom in on here, you'll notice this background of my shadow. It's very pixelated. And the reason why it's doing that, I'm going to use this, use depth map shadows. It's resolution dependent, so I can crank that up and get really, really nice shadows, but it's going to take more render time. Or I could reduce that, and you'll notice that it's going to look like we're in a mobile video game. This is because of the amount of render time that we can choose between. So the default was 512. Now it's definitely not even updating because I was messing with it. The default is 512, and it's technically not on. But if we turn that on and then we start to mess around, so maybe 1280 would be something I could use. That can be adjusted further depending on how your time is for your play blast. So if I go 2000, it's actually a pretty good level on there. So this is just, if you're wondering, like, my shadows are blurry. Well, you have your setups in here where you are definitely allowed to adjust that. Something to be aware of too, the more lights you put in the scene, the longer each frame of a play blast is going to take. Now, why I think this is going to not be so bad of a thing for you is because we're play blasting. And play blasting is not going to take an Arnold render amount of time. It's going to take, maybe 30 seconds per frame at the, I think, the highest for you. So that's not going to be too scary. And I think that's actually... that's good news for us. So let's go a little bit further into some materials for you for the blends, because I want you guys to see some other stuff now that you're adding some polish. Maybe I want to have something on these that look nice. So I'm going to go into my material editor, and I had my ground. I'm going to go ahead and do create materials blend again. And inside of here, I have my color, and again, reflectivity by default, 0.5, kill it. Immediately kill it. I'm going to go into my color, and I'm going to give it maybe a, if it's a blue room, I don't know. Let's do something weird. No, yeah, we'll go with orange curtains. So I'm going to use an orange cream color for my curtains. And I'm going to kill my specular on that. I don't need it for this. But I do want to try something here. So if I put this blend on here, and I'm just going to call that curtain material. Remember, everything in your I'm going to look at things to make sure. Obviously, if a couple things get forgotten, that's not that big of a deal. But this should probably be called not plain, but curtain. And then same thing with that one. I'm going to middle mouse button, drag that, middle mouse button, drag this. Okay. Man, that's a house I don't want to ever go into. Orange and blue like that. It maybe at a video game place, that would be okay. I don't know why you'd be in a... I don't know. That's just a weird thing to see for colors. But hey, whatever. I've got this now. I want to add a little bit of texture to this. So how do I make this feel more like cloth? And this has been a question that a couple people have had. You do it like this. So I've got this material. I'm going to scroll down and you will see bump map, normal map. Oh snap. Normal maps. We're not going to do normals. I'm just going to show you how to use a bump. I'm going to press this button right here. Let's do cloth. I'm going to press that button. And right away, you want to burn it with fire. Look at this. It looks like a bunch of spines that have been stacked. It just looks disgusting. However, we can fix this. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to graph editor. And now that I have my graph editor open, I am going to look at what this is. So I have my curtains material. My material, if I take over this whole screen, which I don't want to have to do, but my curtain material has a bump applied to it now. So this node is being connected into what's called the normal camera. Don't worry about that. the main thing is we want to look at our cloth, and we want to look at our place 2D texture. The place 2D texture is basically saying this texture repeats these many times on this object. And right now it's repeating 4 times, and that's why it looks gross. I'm going to tell this thing to do maybe like 30. And then I want it to do not only 30 in one direction on like the X, but also on the Y. And in textures, we call that U's and V's. But again, we'll get into that next time. So I did this 30 by 30, and oh, we're getting there. Now it looks like chainmail from, I don't know, or like a really gross curtain from Silent Hill. So we need to fix that some more. I'm going to increase my stitch count on there. Oh, it's not Egyptian cotton yet, but I'm getting there. So we got 1,000 by 1,000. What is this going to do? All right, this is causing, I think that's the moire effect. You're not the father, not Maury Povich, but you can see this is a bit weird. So when you go too high on the your repeat, it starts to do weird patterns that your eyeballs can't unsee. So we're going to change that down a little bit. I'm going to knock that down to 500 by 500. Did that make it better? Still not enough. I'm going to go maybe 250 by 250. All right, I can work with this, but I can't work with how bumpy it is. It's too deep. And you can see that because it's just, that's a rough piece of cloth. So I'm going to go over here at my bump. And if I click on my bump, and you can navigate in here just by holding on Alt and middle mouse button. My bump depth is 0.1. Let's get that so we can see this a little bit better. Okay, so 0.1 is what this is. I'm going to go, or 1. I'm going to go 0.5. Okay, let's go 0.1. Okay, what this is doing is knocking back the depth of this value here. So that way it's not super in your face. Even like 0.01, that looks so much better. And now if we back up, we have a little bit of noise or pattern on this object. So less is more, but man, that just adds this subtle extra layer to this. Here's another thing. Maybe you wanted to animate that too. So you could just easily, if I grab my vertices on this, start it here, and then I'll go maybe like 30 frames. Move that over here. This is a way that we could just kind of move around this thing. I'm not going to go too far on that, but that's just an extra layer if you wanted to get this thing looking, feeling like it's blowing in the wind or something like that. That's an easy thing to animate. So yeah, we've talked about how to add some texture onto some objects and how to add some color on there. Blend is your best friend for this, absolutely. And again, let's add a camera. So your cameras are also in here, and that's under rendering, or you could just go to create cameras. I really like camera and aim because it allows for me to be able to control not only where the camera physically is, but where the aim is going to be. So if I move that on my hideous whipped out in 2 seconds dominoes here and look through my camera, I'm gonna go two-pane here, pour you a drink. Let's see if we can go to two-pane side by side. There we go. Camera 1. So I've got this view, and I can move around in here, and obviously my outliner is kind of in the way. I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to get the attribute editor. I'm just going to click on that text to get that off. Now I can actually move this thing around. Your last step should be finalizing where the camera is and your lighting, but don't neglect the camera. If you're animating and all of a sudden you're noticing, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see. So if I'm following this, but then the camera has to go down really low, and then my aim goes up really high to this window, am I going to see any? Am I going to see the top? No, because I have my frame on, and I can see where that edge is. So that just helps us compose these really, really well. Now, another thing to realize too, the finesse of this goes even further, where we can turn on. Got that right there. It's up so we can see it like this. Again, shading, hardware texturing. You'll have to turn these things on as we open up another view. So just be aware that when you finesse this for your final render, you need to make sure that you are setting up your camera that you want to be using. So this is looking better. I want to turn on my, so I'm using all lights, and I'm going to use my shadows. Sure, we'll turn on two-sided lighting. I don't think it's going to do much for us. And then I'm going to turn on my ambient occlusion. So ambient occlusion will just give that extra little push around the edges. And then I can turn on things like my motion blur. So I got motion blur turned on. And then my anti-aliasing. So it just crisps up that edge. You'll notice that's pretty good looking. Yeah, my shadows are a little bit pixelated, but holy cow, that motion blur really went intense on that. So this is something, because I moved it, it's now really showing some motion blur on there. We can go into our renderer and motion blur. Now you don't have to have motion blur on. It is kind of nice. Your open fraction is how you can control that, and the samples of this are also how many frames it's going to blur between. It's a nice little extra thing. I would try to render out a couple frames of your playblast and see if motion blur works for you. It's just an extra little nice thing. Again, you don't have to use that, but if you do use it, I don't want it to look like this thing is phasing out of 8 different dimensions and then glitching out. I want it to look like it's kind of a realistic motion blur. So test this out for your viewport, because it's just extra sprinkles on top. So this is what this would be rendering for my playblast, and that looks pretty good. However, when we render out a playblast, you might have noticed if you have an object selected, it's going to be highlighted green. So you have to do either two different things: back up and click off of that and then playblast, or go into your show, and then we can turn off manipulators and selection highlighting. So selection highlighting is the thing that's causing this. So if I go to show selection highlighting, I turn that off. In this view, you'll notice this is technically still selected, this room, but it's not actually highlighted inside of my camera. I could also do that by turning off my manipulators and all that stuff as well. So that way, it's when this renders, I'm going to turn off my HUD as well. And okay, so this will render a lot better for me. So this is just something to be aware of. So we could set this up for their playblast and get a really nice render for it that isn't going to be taking us weeks upon weeks to do. Now, why am I showing you all this stuff, and why are we doing it this way? What I want you to be aware of is in the lab, and a couple of you, actually maybe just one or two of you, have been to MV before, or you're coming from a different major. You know the animation lab, when we used to be there, it's been almost a year. The end of the semester is often this time with a bunch of students coming in at the same time looking for an available computer to be able to render. This isn't this extra stress we're trying to add. It is just a way of life. This idea of needing to figure out how to schedule your schedule around the lab when it was open to be able to render out your stuff is a very normal thing for animation majors. In some ways, we watered down the requirement for what we're doing right now because we are on virtual. The idea of having to be on campus and render is very much something that you would be having to get used to, and coming in on off times and all that fun stuff. I mean, obviously, if you have a nice computer at home to render on, that's not a big deal. But students that are successful would be coming in, talking to other students and all that fun stuff. That's where this Discord and using emails to talk to me, and our Mondays and Tuesdays open labs are there to be able to talk about all those fun stuff. So yeah, hopefully maybe in the fall we could finally have senior year on campus, and we could use the 3D printers that are there and all that fun stuff, because that's important. All right, so we talked about some of that stuff. I want to go through our Rube Goldberg updates here in our discussions. Okay. Should have updated that other one. Nice. Okay, so Griffin, you've got... Oh, good. So you already got that going. Okay. The only thing I'd want is your lighting to be there. The animation, when this thing drops, the camera kind of has to follow this and then follow up there. And that's kind of hard to see. I like, okay, so you have this going here. It's all in one camera. It's working. But right here, this action's super, super fast. And we're not really following the action so much. So if we could slow down this camera jerk from here to there, you're noticing that we're going past that action. So when I see this, about to here, we've already kind of lost what we're looking at, which these are all very, very fast pieces to see in the first place. Like, this definitely works. I'm just giving you ways to make this even better. So when that last one hits this guy, it's like a split second to see that. And then you have such a cool contraption here for this arrow. It'd be nice that we can have the camera show what's about to happen here for a split second before that one goes off. So I'm wondering if you took your camera and it went along the side of this and it's zooming out and past this, so we can see that bow and arrow in the background as this falls. That's going to allow for our eyes to digest the sequence that's about to happen, and that would be very, very helpful to set up the action of that scene. And again, when this arrow hits, it's a super fast amount of time that is seen. So if we can kind of, I'm wondering if there's a way that we could slow down. You know what? I think, yeah, right there. Your books. If we slow down the books. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just making sounds in my mouth trying to think of the speed of that. If we can slow down that first part. So the way you could do this, it's actually not hard to do. Your animation right now is probably starting normally at 0, but if you tell that to be like a -30, you now have additional time that you can grab that first sequence and slow that down. I'd look for a couple spots in there to slow it down a little bit so our eye can digest it, because you have a lot of great things happening in that scene. I just want you to have like the best piece for your portfolio possible, and I think to do that it would just be some updates on the timing of that. But yeah, I love what you got there. Think about how you can put some finesse in the background. That way it's just not a flat background. And then your door, cool, it's opening a door. Is there a way that we can make walls around that door so it actually feels like the door goes somewhere? Things like that I think would be helpful to just to add some polish to this. Okay, so we got, get that going, and nice. It's a good looking tomato. Some lettuce, good. All right, yeah, keep going. I want to see more of this. So I'm going to, so that's 3 out of, there's definitely more than 3 people in here for updates. Make sure, I'm going to put week 13 updates in here so you guys can update in there as well. Create threat, not in there. Back up. Create a, yep. do this week 13 through Goldberg. So put your updates in here. Now, here's, I already did. And it's same class. Yeah, okay. It's in there. Make sure you put your updates in here. Week 13, and fill that one. That way I can see what you're doing. Now, this is that part in the end of our semester where, again, I'm telling you guys, it's on Thursday at 8 o'clock is when I need your stuff. I have tons of grading. I have all sorts of stuff to do. If this were the actual campus class, emails has been a standard way for people to contact me, and I'm checking these all the time. But I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff this weekend. I have a lot of things I have to juggle, so do not think that you can just, send out an SOS and then have me immediately be able to respond within a couple minutes. That's not happening. I have a lot of other stuff I have to do. Obviously, I have office hours. I have open lab on Mondays and Tuesdays for an hour. This class hasn't been using that. That is from 9:30 until 10:30 Monday and on Tuesday. That's that Discord link I shared earlier in the semester in the announcement. And we've had, our emails and Discord, all that different ways for you guys to get in touch with either a tutor or me. And again, this is the end of a semester. This is a difficult major. This is a little bit of a taste for what we'll be dealing with for the rest of the time that we're here at MVCC. It's self-driven and it is all on the computer. So it's something that I think you're in that moment too, where you're like, okay, I really love this stuff and I'm really getting this polished, or you're more like, why did I sign up for this? I wish I was doing something else. Those are things that you can have a conversation with me. Either A, you really like it, you want to figure out what else to do over the winter break, shoot me an email, or the B, it's the opposite of that, where this feels like stabbing hot needles in your eyes every time you open up Maya. Not a good feeling. Now, obviously, we're all stuck on a computer at home, so we can't really get the full experience of what it is to be on campus in a lab, but we're all working together. However, having to work in front of a computer, either remotely or anywhere that we're going, that's just going to be a standard way that we work, and it's the technicality. So I'm dealing with my seniors right now. The technical stuff that we're having to deal with right now. Things go wrong often, and trying to juggle how we can fix that is a typical thing, and it doesn't go away, unfortunately. So what I want you guys to think about is how to use your last week to best, I guess, manage your time to get this stuff done, because stuff can go wrong. With my seniors, they know that it's just constant, like, oh, that didn't work out so well, I have to re-render that, or whatever it is. For you guys, you haven't had that random thing crash on you, likely, or something randomly just pull the rug out from underneath you so much, where like maybe you've lost an entire project or something like that. Don't have that happen. Back up your work. Make sure that you are saving your stuff, and make sure that you are being fair to yourself over the weekend. I know during this time when I was a student in animation, all of my film buddies, my photo buddies, my illustration students, our friends, they all were like there was parties back in the day when people could get together, but there was also they would just be playing video games and hanging out. They didn't have any extra work to do because they had like a report to do on the last day of class, and that was it. So they had to do like 1 hour of work, that final week. We don't have that luxury. It's just not the way our career paths are set up. There's a lot of work that has to happen for what it is that we need to produce to show. And so don't fall into that. There's 1 more week left. All your friends are relaxing, and so you should do that too. Spend the time to finish this up, because after Thursday at 9 o'clock, you could totally just, drop the mic, get away from your computer. You don't owe me anything else, and we can take a break finally. But don't do that too early. If you eject from your seat too early, it causes so much chaos. So don't do that. And again, I am going to be checking emails. What I'm saying earlier, I'm not ignoring emails or anything like that. It's just I don't expect, Wednesday night at midnight or at 6 o'clock. Like, hey, so I haven't done anything. What should I be doing? It's like, well, you had 7 weeks to produce this. So there's really no excuse that I want to hear about why something's not produced at that point. You have still time right now to turn your ship away from the iceberg if you spend quite a bit of time obviously working on these things. But I want you to also, if you haven't even started this, take a moment to think about why are you going to put yourself through hell for a week to try and knock something out if you likely are showing signs that you're not super interested in it too. So it's that. And I don't say this to scare or like intimidate anyone. I want people to be happy with the degrees that they're choosing. It doesn't hurt my feelings if people don't like animation. I understand it. Half the time I'm using this, sometimes I want to throw my computer out the window. It doesn't always work the way we want. But I'm addicted to the I guess the adrenaline of, is this going to work, or am I going to be very, very stressed out right now? How's this going to work? So it happens. Again, you have one more week to get content done. Does anyone have any questions before we break on stuff that they were working on, or if they had any other types of multiple cameras? Is anyone still planning on doing multiple cameras, or are they planning on just using one camera now? I think yes, there is a way that we could do that. Because I think you're getting the most out of one camera at this point. And you know what? I'm wondering. So you've got this all this motion going on to have this thing hit that. The amount of little pieces that you have here, you could probably get away with every other here. It's less visual noise for you, and we might be able to have that so it feels like it's slower. So there's always like a million different ways to do something. I'm just trying to think about the best approach for what you're doing right here. With that thing up there, yeah, I think. Now, again, you don't have to do multiple cameras. If you try to just spread out some of this, it might alleviate that. This is great, by the way. It's I just think that to make this even better, let's get some lights in there, and let's first just tweak some of the animation so it's a little bit slower. You're at 8 seconds. Let's see if we can get some more timing on it. Not because I'm trying to get you to just hit that 10-second mark, but I also want this to feel that our eyeballs can digest every single action that's happening. You busted your ass to get all this animation in here, and the camera work right now isn't giving us enough time to see all of it. So if we slow down some of these actions, it's going to allow for us to really enjoy all the things that you've got going on in here. And yeah, keep me posted on that. Do an update. So I'm going to make it a point by, so I'll check tomorrow, and on Saturday, I'll definitely be checking stuff, and probably again on Sunday. I'll be checking maybe like once a day. So if you have something in there, in your update for forum, do that. Or, even better, send me an email saying that you put that in there. That way I have it just in my email box that I can check before, because I have to wrangle 2 kids while I'm away from my machine, so the discussion board is less able to be accessed by me, but I can definitely access my emails to see that, hey, you have something that you're waiting on me to check out. So and I think I am gonna do a video on how to put together multiple pieces in After Effects for you guys. So that is on my list. I'll hopefully get that knocked out tonight for you guys, so that way, in case you have multiple cameras, how to put those sequences together. Anybody else? Okay. So this is I guess this is me waving to you as you go on your journey to Hogwarts. And that Hogwarts, it's not year 1 anymore. You're going off, and you got some jerk that he's gonna break your arm No, no, that's a weird way of saying it. Whatever that guy was that he took your bone out of your arm and all that. Don't make Maya feel that way. Take control of that and make Maya work for you. Hogwarts is a fun place, and this magical experience you're about to explore. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how that. I didn't forget what the name of that guy is, but he was like the one that was obsessed about himself, and he made a bunch of books about himself. So you're going off to Hogwarts, and this is me waving, and I have no idea what's about to happen until you come back for vacation or you're on holiday. And holiday is when you show me all your stuff. So I have no idea what's going to happen between now and then. Keep me updated because I worry. I want to make sure that you guys have an awesome Rube Goldberg machine. That's what I'm trying to say. Something Lockwood. Was it Flint Lockwood? I don't remember his name. I love Harry Potter, by the way. But anyways, you're on the train. You're gonna go and you're gonna get Maya to do things magically, and you do some good stuff. And then on Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're gonna watch everybody's stuff, and then we'll get out of here. So, all right, everybody. Yeah. No. No one's excited. Probably everyone's just tired, I guess. This is awkward. I'm gonna keep staying here. I'm not gonna end class. I'm just gonna stay. No, I'm gonna end class. All right, guys. Do good work. And keep me updated if you have any questions. Have a great day. There's still 6 people in here. Oh, there's 5, 4. Still 4 people. Oh. Bye, Abby.